Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the dev server for the update Winged Lions, and it's time to have a look at the Mirage 5F. This is a new vehicle which is coming to the top ranks of the French tech tree in update Winged Lions. And one thing to note is because Israel is getting added to the game, these two premiums are disappearing. So if you want them, they're going to be here for a limited time before the update comes out, so it might be worth picking them up if you're interested. They're also adding the Voto 2N that we've talked about in a previous video, so make sure to check that one out. But the Mirage 5F comes in after the Jaguar A, which obviously got added a bunch of stuff to it, which is really fun. So adding in the Mirage makes a lot of stuff on this one cheaper and makes it more interesting to get and play, in my opinion, so it isn't as hard to research out. The 5F is kind of a fighter, bomber, strike fighter idea, but in game it is labeled as a jet fighter, so it will have to take off from the airfield, at least for now. It is powered by the Snecma ATAR-9C with 6,000 kgf of afterburner thrust, and also is very similar to another machine that we also have in game. It does get access to all of the CCIPs and CCRPs, which are really nice for it, so it will make rockets and bomb runs a lot easier, and also has a radar in the front, which it can also use. Armor-wise, it doesn't have any, which is pretty standard with a lot of these high-end jets when it comes to War Thunder nowadays. And another thing which is very, very clear on this machine and very, very interesting is the secondary armaments. Now, I've got to say, a lot of the secondary armaments don't actually work right now, or they're kind of bugged out, so give it a bit of time. Like you can see here that there's a few issues with it, but I'm sure they'll get them sorted out once they get them done. But the main thing to understand is there's a ton of rockets that this thing can bring, which is really cool. There's a ton of bombs that this thing can bring as well on the vehicle, and also it can carry some pretty cool missiles. It gets access to the AS-30 Nord, which is basically just the AS-20 Nord but bigger and better. It's an M-close missile. You only get one of them though. Has pretty decent pen, but the main thing is the TN2 equivalent. It has 115 kilos worth of TNT equivalent, which is really nice. And alongside that, you can bring some missiles. So it gets some stock AIM-9Bs, and then you can actually get some Matra R550s as well. These are seen as some of the best missiles in the game, and they are extremely good when it comes to the game, so it'll be really nice using them in general, at least in general battles. Bombs wise, you get 400 kilo ones, you get 250s as well. Both are pretty useful in their general configurations, so you can bring them on as well if you are interested in using them. And it also gets countermeasures, but there is a trade-off here, and a few vehicles have this, which kind of sucks. But I think the flares or the countermeasures in general are going to be more useful for people. But the trade-off is the guns. So this vehicle has access to two 30mm DEFers. They're in the center of the vehicle, as you can see here. They get 250 rounds of ammunition, which is really nice. But if you put in the countermeasures, then you don't get access to the guns. They're still modeled on the X-ray. Obviously, that is a bit of a bug, but you can't use them. So you either have to go for guns, or you have to go for countermeasures. And I think most people at this point in War Thunder's history would definitely go for countermeasures, just because of the amount of crazy stuff which is flying through the air nowadays when it comes to semi-active radar homing missiles and also IR missiles, since this thing is 10.7, so it's pretty high up when it comes to all of the stuff going on. One thing to also say about this, I don't think its cockpit is ready yet, but it is looking like a beautiful aircraft. Yeah, the cockpit's not ready yet, but you can hear the noise of it. And a lot of jets and also a lot of tanks actually got their noises kind of sorted out in this one, or in this update. For some reason they've decided that this is going to be the update where they sort a ton of that stuff out. The radar isn't working at the moment, but I'm sure it will in the future. It does also get access to an RWR as well, so there is at least a little bit of a nicety when it comes to it. You can see the countermeasures come out the back, so they'll be useful at trying to get stuff away from the engine. You can also see the new trail of smoke that they're doing, and the nice little effect that we have when it comes to the actual exhaust of the machine. And as we said, when it comes to the weaponry and everything like that, has access to CCRP, which is really useful. Like it's something which I feel like is very much overlooked in War Thunder, but if you want to get an easy bomb drop off, or if you want to get an easy base drop off, it's one of those things that is definitely worth using in the long run. So you can, activate your target points, which is really good. It's going to be quite hard from this distance to be exact, but let's just go for that. And you just hold the bomb permission, and then when it lines up, it'll just drop them automatically. So yeah, it's pretty nice. Like I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty fun little system. And with the extended kind of hard points this thing has, where it can carry the bombs alongside of it, I think that's actually really cool on the machine. The only real question that I have about the Mirage 5 is how does it fit in the meta? Because you kind of have these weird fighter bombers that are around the place, and the fighter bombers themselves do seem like fun aircraft to fly, but they have a real issue with if they're not strike fighters like this one, so it doesn't get an air spawn. You're really going, do I want to use this, or do I want to use, let's say, one of the Mirages, for example, in the form of the 3s? Is it better for me to use the Mirages or in the 3s, or is it better to use the 5? Or is it a case of just waiting for another Mirage to come out while you try and deal with this one? The reason why this has come into the game now is because, the Israelis are obviously getting their variant of the Mirage 5, the very much upgraded one, which will be really fun to see. And France, a lot of the time, is, people talk about how France always kind of gets missed out or doesn't get a bunch of stuff. But in this update, they're getting a top tier Jess, they're getting a Spitfire, and they're getting a Leclerc. I'd say that's pretty decent when it comes to the sets of vehicles themselves. And the Mirage 5, even though will not be the best dedicated fighter out there, it will not be the best dedicated bomber, it will still have its place, especially in ground forces, when you run it alongside other machines, thanks to the CCRP and also the Nord that's available. In air forces, I think it'll be one of those which is much more, I suppose, limited by its secondaries, but still will have its uses in some ways. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Barine, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.